Hey, what's good, family? Thanks for pressing play on another Pay Me No Mind live stream, or whether or not you come back and catch this on the video. Just had to come back. Wanted to clean up a few things regarding this When They See Us limited series over on Netflix, brought to us by writer, director, just sister extraordinaire in my opinion, Ava Duvernay. I put out a live stream just kind of recapping it, giving some reactions to it. It was just it was that moving. And so I jumped out there and I was trying to provide some extra information on how to listen to a podcast from that featured one of the real guys from the movie. Corey Wise was on one of my favorite podcasts of all time, the Combat Jack Show. And I believe when I went to the website that it was on, it automatically started playing, and the audio from that was coming in underneath the live stream that I did. And I'm very conscientious about the quality that I aim for when I'm putting stuff up. So but then it's over 150 views at this point, I think. And I think with me talking, I kind of drowned out the background audio of that podcast enough, but it did interfere with the audio, the quality of the audio of my voice. And with this being such an important project, I wouldn't want to do anything, not like a million people are checking out my thoughts on it, but, I wouldn't want to do anything that would bring down the discussion on that matter or on that, on this show. So I wanted to come back and just throw that out there. I didn't want to there hasn't been any comments on that video and any engagement, which I was kind of hoping for. I thought it was something that would be well received, and I thought it would have been a priority for a lot of people to check it out. And so that hasn't happened, but with it's out there, and I just didn't feel like taking it down. I just didn't. But I did want to come back and clear up something. And story broke earlier. One of the central figures in everything that played out, that set everything in motion, in When They See Us. And kind of ironic, but this lady right here, Linda Fairstein, who appeared in the movie and was played by Felicity Huffman, very well, might I add, a little too well. And I mentioned it on the live stream. I can't remember what other project it was that Felicity Huffman played in, but it was another. I want to say it was Regina King was on there, and it was a show on CBS where they changed the characters, or they changed the story and the characters every season, or it was only 2 seasons, I believe. And she played the mother of it was something else along racial angst and all of that type of stuff. I can't remember what that show was. Maybe I'll come back to that later. But anyway, this lady Linda Fairstein in When They See Us in the show, she was the chief of the sex crimes unit in Manhattan when this situation all happened. I mean, when with the 5 guys who became to be known as the Central Park 5, which now I think they're kind of rebranding that as the Exonerated 5. But this lady right here on the screen is the one who put this all in motion. And it seems like after this weekend, it's up on TMZ.com right now. And really quickly, she was working at a place called Safe Horizon, I believe, for the last 20 years. And after this weekend, she resigned after the truth kind of came out on the situation. And the funny thing is, what she did here is tantamount to what Carolyn Donham did years ago to Emmett Till. And different set of circumstances, a different conclusion to what happened with Emmett Till. Unfortunately, as horrible, as horrific as that was. But in this instance right here, here's another lady who, carried out one of the most horrific injustices that I've come across. But we see this a good 2 or 3 times a year in other situations in other states, involving the judicial system and the judicial process. But just some notes from the story on TMZ right now. She held a position on the board with Safe Horizon, and she insists that she was the one who's been done wrong by When They See Us. She said it depicts me in a fictionalized version of events in a grossly and maliciously inaccurate manner. This is from a letter that she wrote. The grounds for leaving was to avoid becoming a lightning rod to inflict damage on this organization. It also says from the group CEO she declined to meet with me to learn the truths. Or maybe this is what she's saying about the CEO of the group. They declined to meet with me to learn the truth behind the inflammatory and false narrative depicted in a movie. And then she goes on. This is the most insanely ironic thing. If she went on, I guess there was a hashtag that was started, hashtag cancel Linda Fairstein movement over the weekend on Twitter. I didn't see that out there, but that's what's here in the article. And it just said that she described this movement as a mob mentality reaction. I say this is ironic because if you watch the show already, she single-handedly, and I had to throw this disclaimer out there. As I'm watching this thing, as gripping as it was, as stirring as it was, unnerving, all of that type of stuff, I'm trying to keep in mind in some regards that all of her dialect or all of her dialogue, everything that her character did in this project, these are either Ava DuVernay's words that she's written, or maybe Ava went and interviewed a couple of individuals involved, some of the other detectives, some of the people in that unit, and hopefully she did some research and got some of this stuff right. But at the end of the day, if with Linda Fairstein being the chief of this sex crimes unit that headed up the investigation into the rape and assault of physical assault and rape of the jogger that was involved, if she was the head of that group, I mean, she had to have facilitated it, making it to where it made it to. But yeah, it goes on in this article to say that for nearly 20 years, she's worked at this nonprofit organization, and she stepped down because her role in coercing confessions. Now with the story being told, it's a renewed outrage. Safe Horizon is the nonprofit is I guess the mission statement or the purpose for it is it's a nonprofit aiding victims of abuse and violent crime in New York City. This is just crazy, man, because she's an author. She has out a series of books from her investigations while she was while she was a part of the New York City Police Department. It's some snippet here about her bio. She's one of America's foremost legal experts on crimes of violence against women and children, for which she has received scores of awards. Consults with victims and organizations on these issues. She is a fellow of the American College of Trial Lawyers. She's also a lawyer. She went on to become a lawyer. Serves on the board of God's Love We Deliver and is a Vassar College trustee. Fairstein is a graduate of Vassar and the University of Virginia Law School. Yeah, so it's just crazy, man, that somebody could be in this type of position, oversaw this whole thing and has been walking around, pretty much in anonymity for the last 20 years, serving all of this good and doing, being of service to all of this other activity. But back in April of 1989, she did something that's just downright despicable. I mean, and it was illegal. And so I'm kind of dumbfounded as to how she was able to, once Corey Wise got out, I believe in like 2002, all 5 guys were exonerated and everything. I'm surprised there was no way to legally do anything to her, for this miscarriage of justice. But it is what it is, I guess, Going back to the show real quick, man, just some quick notes on this before I shut this down and get on out of here. I did want to say I was really taken aback by the performances of young Antron McCray, who was played by Khalil Harris, and then Asante Black, who played young Kevin Richardson. I felt like, I didn't read into their individual bios, man, but I felt like they really nailed portraying like a New York City kid in 1989. And that's kind of the weird beauty of this project, is it was done so well. It was so good. And then when you get into some of the cinematic stuff in the 4th episode with Corey Wise's situation, and him going through the effects of being in isolation or solitary confinement for so long, you kind of forget you're looking at a real movie. My wife couldn't even watch it. I don't even think she made it through the 2nd episode. She was so infuriated. And that's why we had the little couples argument about me watching something without her, but I knew she was going to do that. And for me, it was important that I watched it. And, it was important that I got some thoughts out there on it. And, it's real issues like this, phenomenal projects like this that, I just like to be able to shed some light on in my own way. And so, but anyway, Netflix doesn't really release its streaming numbers and all of that type of stuff. But I'm assuming that as good as it is, I've seen some traffic or comments about it on Twitter today, and it looks like it is picking up. I asked a couple of people at work about it. I don't think anybody had really seen it, but it does have 4,499 reviews on imdb.com. It has a rating of 8.9 out of 10, and also on Rotten Tomatoes is another source I like to go to just to get an idea of how something is being received. The average user rating on Rotten Tomatoes is a 3 out of 5, which is interesting. But the tomato meter for it is 94%. And there's been 48 season reviews of it. 45 of those said it was fresh. 3 said it was rotten. Critics' consensus: Ava DuVernay pulls no punches, and When They See Us, laying out the harrowing events endured by the Central Park Five while adding a necessary layer of humanity to their story that challenges viewers to reconsider what it means to find justice in America. Looking at a couple just a couple critics' thoughts on it real quick. I'll do 3. Hannah Georges of The Atlantic said, this is just a snippet of her review, but in rendering their journeys, Duvernay pays careful attention to the terrifying power of language, especially the animalistic rhetoric with which prosecutors and journalists referred to the teens. NPR, Eric Deggans at NPR, When They See Us achieves quite a lot, asking us all to consider exactly who in America really gets the presumption of innocence when accused of a crime. Anybody else on here that I like? Vox, The Ringer, Consequences Sound, Newsday. Duvernay makes an effective artistic choice by filming much of this through a blue filter so that the boys' world is enveloped by a Kafkaesque indigo gloom from which they and the viewer can find no escape. I did notice that filter on here, and that's what was another thing. Like I said, you kind of forget that this is a real situation because she put so much of an artistic touch on it. In the first episode, the soundtrack, I really shouldn't even be paying attention to this, but some of the music that was selected to drop you back in that time period. I know it starts off with Special Ed. It gets into some Public Enemy. I think Rakim and Eric B may have been on there, and it really just it really does such an excellent job of just setting the table for what you're getting ready to see, over the next 3 episodes. So I hope everybody checks it out. I hope discussions are had. I hope, families discuss this, parents with young children. Some people's lives changed that day, just making a decision. They were going one way and went to go along with the crowd and ended up in a bad situation. So, hopefully it's used as a learning tool for some families. Know what's going on with your children. And just it is what it is, man. My heart goes out to those 5 brothers and what they endured, the families. Shout out to them that stuck with them through these ordeals. And I don't know. Like I said, I just really wanted to come back on, kind of clean up the first live stream that I did on this, and just kind of report on what's going on here with this Linda Fairstein. This situation with her resigning from this job doesn't even do enough for what she probably should. She probably deserves. But it is what it is, man. I mean, it's some people never get that comeuppance. But let me get on out of here, man. Again, thanks for tuning in, and wow. Hopefully in the future, man, maybe somebody after you do check it out, come back, make some comments, let's build on it a little bit, and get some thoughts on, everybody's, what you take away from this thing. But let me get on out of here. As I always say, you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great.